Imagine if a baby was born with the head of a human and the body of a gorilla. Well, it turns out that this actually happened in real life. And when this strange creature needed some help, an even stranger group of hominids came to the rescue. Hi, it's me and welcome to Paleologic. Today we are talking about a newly discovered skeleton that has a really weird combination of traits. This fossil was found in Siberia back in 2019, but it took until now for the team to fully study it, and they just published their results in the journal PNAS. So what makes this skeleton so weird? Well, let's start at the beginning. Homo sapiens didn't evolve in a straight line. Instead, our evolutionary history is a bit of a jumble. We share a common ancestor with chimpanzees and bonobos somewhere around 6 to 8 million years ago, but after that, things get complicated. There are several different groups of hominids from this general area that have been discovered, such as Australopithecus, Kenyanthropus, and even another species of Homo. And all of these different hominids lived in Africa, Europe, and Asia. Some were bipeds and others were quadrupeds. Some had huge brains and others had much smaller brains. So needless to say, understanding our own evolution can be pretty tricky. And that brings us back to Siberia. The Siberian fossil has a lot of features that tell us which hominid group it's related to. For example, it definitely was a chimp since it was bipedal and it didn't have any of the classic 8 characteristics. It also wasn't an Australopithecus since it lacked the trademark large molars and robust chewing muscles. Instead, the Siberian specimen had a brain size and body size more like Homo erectus. But there was a problem. The shape of its skull and teeth didn't quite match up with Homo erectus. So at first glance, this fossil doesn't fit neatly into any of the hominid groups that we already know about. But then the researchers got to work with their 3D imaging technology. They compared the Siberian skull to other hominid skulls and they found that it matched up really well with Homo habilis. Remember them? They were one of the earliest members of the genus Homo, had a small brain relative to their body size, and were thought to have lived in Africa between 2.8 and 1.6 million years ago. So how could a species that old be found preserved in Siberia? Well, the researchers think that this individual is actually a hybrid, the child of 2 different hominids. Using a computer program, the team was able to virtually reconstruct the face of the hominin, and they noticed that it looked kind of Neanderthal-like, especially around the eyes, nose, and mouth. This is a good clue as to who the other parent might have been. But we don't know the full story. All we can say is that sometime before this Homo habilis interbred with another unknown hominid. This means that the gene pool for Homo habilis wasn't completely separate from other hominids. Instead, there was some mixing going on. And as it turns out, this isn't the only weird hominin that was discovered in Siberia. In the late 1980s, a collection of bones and teeth were found in the Denisova cave and they turned out to be from another previously unknown hominid. These Denisovans also interbred with other hominids, including Homo sapiens, and today, the DNA of people living outside of Africa still has about 20% of their genome that can be attributed to Denisovans. All of this mixing between different hominids makes our family tree look less like a tree and more like a tangled ball of yarn. And it turns out that these interbred hominids weren't just hanging out in caves and scavenging for food. Sometimes they formed unlikely alliances with the biggest animals in the world, mammoths. In 2010, a paper was published in the journal Science that showed a surprising connection between humans and mammoths. Turns out that humans hunted mammoths for a very long time, but we also played a critical role in their survival. See, humans would kill mammoths, and then the hominid that we are descended from would come along afterwards and finish off the leftovers. By eating the carcasses, these scavengers would end up consuming the last of the mammoth's fat, which is essential for keeping their skin from drying out. Without this vital snack, mammoths would have died out much sooner. So thanks, guys. This was a weird and wacky look at the relatives of humans and their interactions with megafauna. If you liked learning about these prehistoric shenanigans, then you can check out a previous episode called Weird Prehistoric Mates. You'll learn about a bizarre beast that's part crocodile, Part mammal and 100% confusing. Thanks for coming along on this journey through time. I'll see you next time.